Financial Services Fintech Lessons Learned, Rewirement, Ron Suber, Show 055. It said here that you are actually called the godfather of Fintech, and yet you seem to be such a humble person for so much that you've achieved. So how does that moniker actually make you feel?
Old.
At 53, Ron.
Well, I think labels are for soup cans, not for people. I appreciate the
I love it.
Mayor of Fintech and Godfather of Fintech jokes that people make. They play the Godfather music when I go on stage usually.
Hey, trusted friends. I'm Mitchell Chadrow, your host on this Listen Up show, where we help you, our loyal listeners, business owners, startups, professionals starting something on the side, recent retirees who now want to turn that hobby or passion into a profitable company, students wanting to build something, all while balancing that with family and life. Today, we're speaking with Ron Suber. Ron is a former Prosper Marketplace president. Ron Suber has been called the godfather of Fintech by San Francisco Business Times and the go-to guy for Fintech innovation. Ron left Prosper not to retire, but as he terms it, rewire, and enter into the next phase of his life called Rewirement. He's a lending industry legend. Want to learn more about how to start up a business? Sign up for our newsletter and get access to exclusive content plus a free copy of our ebook, 30 Tools to Start Up. Get my free ebook now. Just head on over to mitchellchadrow.com/signup. That's right, mitchellchadrow.com/signup. On the podcast show, we speak with successful entrepreneurs, private equity investors, nonprofit student leaders, startups that have grown successful businesses, and those serial entrepreneurs that have built iconic brands and have sold their businesses for millions, fintech gurus, app developers, and so much more. Now enjoy the show. What are we going to learn on today's show? What does it take to make things happen? How do you overcome hurdles and obstacles? What are the new barriers to entry? How do you constantly reinvent yourself, stay current in this ever-changing industry called Fintech, and the past, present, and future of Fintech? I am so excited that Ron is joining us on today's show because Ron is the go-to guy when it comes to Fintech innovation. As an entrepreneur and an investor, we can all learn a lot about entrepreneurship, how to start up an online business in any industry from Ron. Ron, welcome to the show, my friend.
Mitchell, happy holidays. Great to be with you today and your audience.
Yes, thank you so very much for coming on. We are so excited. So how is your rewirement going?
Well, I'm 6 months into this period of my life called Rewirement. It is an exciting time. It's really a time where you get to be unemployed and you get to take everything you've done and practiced and learned, take all the mistakes, the observations and the lessons and turn them into other things. And for me, it's more meeting with entrepreneurs and helping them through the pivots and the good times and the bad. It's investing in the equity of companies and in the debt of companies and really sharing my observations from personal life, entrepreneurship, and business around the world.
That's really exciting. Like I said, when I saw that word, I thought, wow, that is an awesome word to coin. And I certainly wanted to ask you, how things were going as it relates to that. So you love to travel. You're just actually coming back from the Fintech Lend It conference in Australia. I know that you've done that 5 years in a row. Can you recap just a few financial lessons learned that the trusted friends on the Listen Up show can take away from your experience there at the conference?
Absolutely. I think that people are as excited as ever or as scared as ever given what's happening with FinTech, this collision of finance and technology. And what you see around the world, whether you're in Tel Aviv or London or Sydney or Singapore, that the incumbents are feeling the pressure, the incumbent telecom companies, the incumbent banks, and candidly, the incumbent technology companies. And the finance companies are feeling it too, because you now have companies like Ant Financial and Alibaba and Amazon and PayPal and Square really connecting to this next generation and changing the way payments and money transfer, money investment, borrowing, lending, and so much more is happening. And so all of these companies are needing to engage with us as entrepreneurs, with you and your audience, to learn how to pivot and really excel in this golden era of fintech that we're in today for the next 10 years.
Let's dive a little bit deeper, because everybody in the audience has a different level of experience in the fintech space, and there are others who are trying to obviously learn more about it and get interested in it, and that was one of the other reasons why we definitely wanted to have you on today. Can you share with us the story of peer-to-peer lending industry and the history of online lending?
Absolutely. I think people should think about the fintech revolution starting with trading going online in the 80s and mortgages going online with e-loan and PayPal changing payments. And then to answer your question, in 2006, Prosper and Lending Club emerged as peer-to-peer online lending companies where for the very first time, people could borrow and lend to and with each other on the internet. It was a small industry all the way through 2013, candidly. The companies were doing just tens or 20s of millions of loans in a month. It was quite immature, where people were still telling stories and writing their life story and posting pictures to try to get money from other lenders. And then in 2013, things changed where the industry became institutionalized, and we brought in machine learning and big data, alternative data, traditional data, and really innovated so that institutions in 2013 and 14 could now lend to other people online in consumer loans and student loans and business loans and mortgages, to where now around the world it's ubiquitous. In every country, on every continent, people can access each other to borrow and lend. And so you see now tens of billions of dollars a year around the world where people can borrow from other people and institutions. And you see now ETFs being created and securitization and bonds being traded. It's really just the beginning, the early days. I think about this like the sharing economy. In the old days, we used to share things with each other, pictures and weather and emails and stories. And now we're in this access economy where we can now access each other in different ways like never before. And this new generation isn't doing anything the way the old generation did. They want their movies streamed to them. They want their music streamed to them. And they want their money streamed to them as well.
We've talked to other fintech kings in this particular space who are actually futurists. So we've actually spoke a little bit about what's happened in the fintech space, peer-to-peer in the past, what's actually going on here in the present. But can you take us a little even deeper and let us know a little bit about what your insights are in terms of down the road, what we have in store for the future in fintech?
That's something I think about a lot. It's such a great topic to talk to other entrepreneurs about it. I think today it's pretty segmented by asset class and by geography. So here we can invest in students, in consumers, in business, in franchises, in mortgages, in the U.S. or North America. And in Asia, they can do it pretty much in Asia or Southeast Asia, and the same for Europe or Latin America. My vision for the future is there is a portal. Maybe it's Facebook, right? Maybe it's Amazon or Alibaba, where we can go and we can borrow and lend around the world across all asset classes. So think about Priceline and Expedia. They're now worth $100 billion in aggregate because they're connecting people around the world with other people who want a hotel, an airplane ride, or a car. And Uber's doing the same. And I think that's what's going to happen with money. You'll be able to sit in New York, and I'll be able to sit in San Francisco, and we'll be able to borrow from people in Asia or lend to people in Mexico City. It will truly be global, and it will be seamless, like the Ubers and others that have shown us that transportation or Airbnb and lodging, there is a better way. And I think that's where we're going with lending.
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating. So, you mentioned that you were president, of course, at Prosper Marketplace for 5 years, and you've now been in your rewirement now for about 6 months. So can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey since leaving Prosper?
So my wife of 26 years and I got rid of everything we accumulated materially in our first 25 years of marriage. We gave it to charity. Awesome. We bought a new house and started over. And so we rewired personally. So instead of throwing each other out and starting over, we kept each other, but threw our material things away. And for my career, I have invested in 20 companies. I'm advising 10 of them formally. And I'm the chairman of the board of one of them that we just took public in Australia 3 weeks ago. And I'll be announcing in January 2 other companies that I'll be advising and helping them with their strategy, with their pivot, coaching those entrepreneurs to try to achieve the goals, the mission, vision, and values that those companies have in real estate and other parts of the ecosystem.
We have many different sponsors. One of our sponsors is hosting. So when people go over to mitchellchadro.com/hosting, they can see all the different hosting companies that our guests actually utilize for their own companies as well as the ones that they invest in. Is there one or two that you can sort of recommend, and I'll be sure to link up to that as well?
So I use a company to do all my hosting and all my visual work. It's at ronsuber.com, and it's hosted by a company called Batteries Included. Not only a great team, but a great name. And they do all of my Prezi presentations, all of my hosting, all of my digital marketing, and have been a great partner for me in doing what I do in Rewirement.
So as far as a graphic designer, do they also, like for example, Canva, for example, would be a competitor. Do they also do all of your graphic designer work as well?
They sure do. I actually published a piece that they did called Ron's Rewirement Lessons from the First 120 Days. And it went virtual and viral. It had 35,000 shares around LinkedIn and Twitter. And if you look at that piece posted at ronsuber.com, you'll see the quality and the style that they've been able to do. And all of my presentations are very interactive. They're in Prezi, not PowerPoint. And that's all produced, manufactured, and edited creatively and technically by Batteries Included.
Our startup round. Students, business owners, those individuals out there who want to start up something new, they need a presence online, and they need a web hosting company that they can trust and they can count on, and that's reliable and helpful. So what did I do? I teamed up with the good folks at Hosting, where they offer my podcast audience 25% off their web hosting package. Check them out at mitchellchadro.com/hosting. That's mitchellchadro.com/hosting. Start your plan today. You mentioned you are active in so many investments. You're on the board. You're involved in so many different management teams. Can you just highlight a few and some key things you have planned for them in the future?
So I think that many of the management teams are awesome. Some of them are on the right ship, but in the wrong chair. And other teams need more people, maybe more finance help or more marketing help or engineering help. And I'm really working with these entrepreneurs to understand where the pain is and to help them achieve what they really think they can in 2018, 19, and 20. I also think that some of these companies are expanding globally. Some need more equity, some need more debt, and other challenges and pivots in the business. And I'm really helping those young entrepreneurs move through the good times and the not so good times with all the regular challenges.
Well, two companies in particular that I wanted to get some of your insight on is Credible and DocuSign. I think these companies are just incredible. And if you could just give us a little bit more insight into them, that would be awesome for the audience.
Absolutely. DocuSign is the leader in eliminating paper and streamlining business and saving time. And in every country, across every continent, there is the need for smoother business process, not just in signature, but in payment. And this company, DocuSign, is the leader around the world and has so much opportunity ahead of it across banking and healthcare and real estate insurance and so much more. What a great team and a great global presence and brand. I think that Credible is like a Priceline, Expedia, Kayak. It's taking the banks around the world, 24 in particular, and helping them find the students, find the consumers, find the credit cards and more, so that they can deploy some of that cash on their balance sheet and help some of those people and students. And like Priceline and Expedia and Kayak, those entities are worth more than the airlines and car companies and hotels together. And that's Credible's opportunity, is to really become that connector, that ecosystem between the banks, people, students, credit cards, and so much more. The IPO was oversubscribed, and the demand around the world in Asia, Australia is great. We're very excited as a team, hiring and expanding around the U.S. as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, and especially given the fact that with a 17-year-old daughter who's going to be going to college next year, and there's obviously people in the audience whose children are going to college, Credible is certainly a very interesting alternative to the traditional banks. And as far as DocuSign goes, like you said, you mentioned healthcare as well. There's so many different things that you can use the solution for. I know in doing a lot of trusts and estates right now, you can't digitally sign wills and trusts and estates, but one day down the road, when you are able to do that, I can continue to see in other areas, in other industries, how DocuSign will just continue to grow exponentially.
Totally agree. I can't believe people still receive mail and FedEx packages or emails and print them, sign them, and then FedEx them back somewhere. I think that whole thing will be foreign to the next generation. They just won't believe we did it that way. And it's so much better for the environment as well to not have paper.
You know, today Prosper actually has originated over $10 billion in consumer loans. So it's actually established itself, as you know, as a leader in marketplace lending, as a platform. But, you know, when you first got started in Fintech, it wasn't all, you know, success immediately. So can you tell the audience, because obviously they're going through their own struggles and their own businesses to help them start up, what type of setbacks that you actually encountered and how you actually overcame those obstacles?
Absolutely. I was actually a customer of Prosper. I was an investor in the loans, and I got to know the team and the data and the infrastructure and the opportunity. And my two partners, Aaron and Steve, and I had successfully exited another company and sold it to a bank. So we thought we'd have an opportunity to invest in Prosper. We were very fortunate that Sequoia Capital, which backed us at our previous company, Merlin, would also back us again as a management team and an opportunity. So we got to Prosper. There were 77 people. There was a monthly loss on a cash flow basis. There wasn't the best winning culture and some technical deficit and some good competitors. And so we had to really go in and shake up the company. 1/3 of the company had to go. 1/3 could stay right where it was. And really 1/3 needed to change seats on the ship. And that's really the Jim Collins good to great philosophy that many great entrepreneurs should follow and read or reread that book. So many great lessons in it. We went out and told our version of the story. We improved credit, and we started talking to the borrowers and lenders and following what the competition was doing and really leapfrogged much of the industry. Prosper was the first one to do securitization so that BlackRock and Citigroup and the big investors could come in and own these loans, leverage them, securitize them, and sell them as bonds. And that happened in late 13 and early 14, and we kind of shocked the industry, bringing our expertise from Wall Street, from Silicon Valley, that fintech mentality, that innovation, that agility, and the courage and the bravery to try something new to see if we could make it work. And we saw all the competitors follow on with securitization institutions, rating agencies, and other kind of structures that really accelerated the industry. And so I think the key is people having everybody rowing in the same direction, understanding the mission of the company, not really chasing shiny objects, and staying focused and executing. It has been a lot of fun. I spend a lot of time at Prosper. I was there yesterday, and this team is continuing to excel. It's exciting to see.
Yeah, no, and you had mentioned Sequoia Capital, and a lot of the entrepreneurs out there are trying to raise their own money. What type of advice would you give a young startup, a young entrepreneur, a business owner that's obviously trying to take it to the next level to basically get money, borrow money, or basically find, investors in their business?
I think it's a very focused presentation. It does not include the words I mean, yeah, you know, and like. It's an articulation of who you are as a person, as an entrepreneur. What is the total addressable market? What would you do with the money if the venture company gave it to you? What is the arc of the product and the company as you see it? What is the team you have together? And how are you going to execute? How are you going to deal with economic changes, political changes, interest rate changes, and the incumbents maybe challenging your idea? I think it has to be very crisp, and I think you have to be fast on your feet to be able to pivot as businesses change and show these venture capitalists and these investors, these seed investors, these family offices, that you're all in, that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make this company successful.
You know, there's so many hurdles of building online platforms, obviously being the fact that Prosper and Lending Club were the first. You still had your own hurdles to sort of overcome. But for new people trying to come into this space, whether it be in the fintech space or in any other industry, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you can do to make it a little easier to sort of, you know, gain some entry?
Absolutely. I think every entrepreneur should draw a picture, literally a picture, of a three-legged stool. So for Uber, for example, passengers on one side, drivers on the other, and then in the middle are the technology people, the accounting people, the management and marketing, and understanding how efficient and how everything works for the customer experience. And the same can be said for online lending. So the right leg or the right side of the stool is the borrower, the person, the student, the mortgage, the business. The left side is the money. It's the investor, it's the debt, it's the peer-to-peer, or the institution, or the securitization. And the middle leg is the pricing, credit, risk, and underwriting engine, the validation and verification and operations and customer service team, the engineers, marketing, and accounting team. And really understanding, is there equilibrium? Is there inefficiency? Are you tilted? Are there more investors than borrowers, or vice versa? And really visually being able to understand and see how the business is running and where the pain is, where's the opportunity. Is it in the efficiency? Is it in marketing? Is it in the capital market side? I think that three-legged stool works for almost every business I've seen. It certainly works for Airbnb, right?
Sure.
Places to stay, people who want to stay. And the middle is the operations and the application and the technology and the service. And so I think when you can visualize the business and see where the problems are or the single-threaded parts of the stool, it really helps in fixing and growing and excelling as a company.
And the fact that you've been involved in so many of your own investments in so many successful companies, it sort of comes across that way that obviously you've given this a lot of thought, and that's the reason why the audience is going to really appreciate all of this really good practical advice that you're providing. Let's turn now to competition and partnerships, because we see Lending Club with WebBank, we see On Deck with JP Morgan, we see Cabbage with Santander, we see SoFi out there, Avent, and we see next year Goldman Sachs, you know, coming with Marcus. So how do the online lenders remain competitive, and what do they need to do to continue that competitive edge?
Such a great question. Prosper also has a great relationship with WebBank. I think one of the key things is how are each of these companies going to acquire more customers, more borrowers in unique and efficient and lower CPA, cost per acquisition or cost per click. What is the difference or differentiator in customer acquisition? The second part is, how are these companies going to lower their cost of capital? You brought up Goldman Sachs' Marcus as a great success story. They started with very low cost of capital, given they have billions of dollars of cash, earning 1% from their clients. And then how are these companies going to hire the engineers that are going to make the mobile experience better, make this new product work and integrate and expand globally? I think all of these companies share that. Lower, unique ways to find customers, increasing the education, awareness, and understanding, lower cost of capital, diversifying capital, new products, and efficiency. These are really the challenges of all those companies that you mentioned.
Let's talk a little bit about market share and the peer-to-peer as a new asset class for those, whether they're actually being investors or they're actually looking as startups to borrow from these alternative platforms. Can you provide some details about the risk and this bank smarter alternative for those investors out there and the borrowers?
Absolutely. What a great time to be an investor, a retail investor or an institutional investor. There are so many great alternative fixed income opportunities. Clearly, Lending Club and Prosper and SoFi and Marcus on the consumer side, but there's also on the real estate side, Lending Home and Patch of Land and Pier Street and Lending One. In litigation finance is Yield Street. In some of the subprime or mid-prime, there is Money Lion and LendUp, and on and on and on, student loans, etc. So investors have many, many choices on where they can put their money across asset classes, both small and big. And on the borrower side, what a great opportunity. They can go to LendingTree or Credit Karma or other places that will help them find the best opportunity. When a student goes to or a consumer goes to Credible, they get hard offers from the best, most competitive banks competing against each other for the best rate, the best solution, the best product with a great customer experience for that consumer, student, or credit card purchaser. So I think it's a really efficient time, great solutions, whether you're an investor or a borrower.
And, we've talked about so many different resources because we're really big, Ron, on resources for entrepreneurs out there and also for investors. And so I'm actually going to have not only all the notes for today's show, but any links to any of the companies that we've actually talked about. And they'll actually be able to find that back at mitchellchadrow.com/show055. So this is really excellent. We're all about entrepreneurship here on the Listen Up show. And the fact that you also enjoy teaching and that you travel the world teaching about lending, whether it's teaching at Lending Academy. I just saw that you're heading to Africa, I think, to teach lending and entrepreneurship. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I always wanted to be a teacher from the very beginning. I thought that the learning aspect was fascinating. And I've had the chance to teach at Cornell and Fordham and Pace and Berkeley and Stanford and Southern California. I'm actually heading to Hawaii in February to teach a class. Literally just got back from Southeast Asia in sharing my observations, experiences, and mistakes and the lessons along the way. I think entrepreneurship is not only hard, but it's lonely. And there's only so many people an entrepreneur can really talk to. Some conversations are difficult to have with the board or your management team or your CFO. And all entrepreneurs need a mentor, need an advisor or an advisory team. And at 53, I'm one of the elder statesmen in the industry. And I'm really trying to pay it forward and give it back and help those young entrepreneurs, because I had a lot of help along the way from some great advisors and great entrepreneurs. And I'd love to see some of these younger entrepreneurs in their late 20s and early 30s achieve what they can in the years ahead, understanding the lessons I've learned and trying not to repeat the mistakes I've made.
You may have already covered this particular answer when you were talking a little bit about, the future of Fintech. But can you delve a little bit more into the future of finance generally?
I sure can. I gave this presentation called The Golden Era of Fintech, which resonated. I literally just gave it in Singapore and Australia, in Mexico City, and around the U.S. We're in this next 10-year period, and actually nobody knows who the winner is in the golden era. But if you understand where you are today, where you stand today, and you understand who's coming in and what the players are doing, you'll have a much better chance of succeeding in the golden era, this next 10 years, the middle 10 years of the fintech innovation cycle. And so some of the winners are becoming a little more clear. Look at PayPal's stock price. Look at Square's stock price. Look at what some of these incumbents are doing in the technology world, like Amazon, like Facebook. Look at what some of these groups are doing globally. You've seen 4 Chinese fintech companies go public, one yesterday in the U.S. And some are up 100% this year. So really understanding where you sit today, kind of what the opportunity is, and how do you work with the incumbent, banks, tech companies, telecom companies, and others, and move forward to capture the minds and hearts and imaginations and wallets of this next generation, which we now call the I generation, because they've always had internet and they've always had an iPhone. They're different, but if you can capture them early, great success is ahead.
The next question is a different twist on an earlier question I had asked you, and that was in terms of people going and how they should present themselves to future investors. Let me take that and go a little bit deeper if I could. What do you actually look for, you personally, before you actually make an investment in a financial technology company, or really, Ron, any other company?
I look at the person and the people and the management team, and I'm trying to find out what is the balance between the IQ, EQ, and AQ of that person, of that entrepreneur. IQ is clear. It's their intelligence quotient. How smart are they? How big is that processor in their head? Are they a quick learner? Have they retained lots of information? EQ is that emotional quotient. Can they read nonverbal things and tips and cues in the room? And AQ is as important as the others, and that's adversity quotient, and that's resilience and grit. Is this someone who gets punched and lays down or cries or complains? Or is this someone who gets up and fights and will be standing in the 12th round no matter what? I look for that balance between all three of those. I'm also looking for someone who has passion, who believes in what they're doing, and who sacrificed to get there. I think those are really key components of the management and leadership team. If an entrepreneur can come in and very quickly articulate where they're going, what they are, what they aren't, how they're going to get there, and how they compare to others. Who says they're like this company, and who does this company think it's like? If you can see that combination, that storyteller, that vision, the dream, and the passion, I look hard at investing in the equity, debt, and or advising.
You know, when I was thinking of this next question, I think you kind of hit it in terms of it's almost like your gut feel in terms of knowing people well. And one of the things when I was reading up on you before this interview that impressed me the most was the fact that you're basically a natural networker. You're a connector of people. You enjoy naturally building relationships. Tell us a little bit about what your secret is. Like, how do you actually do it?
Well, I listen a lot and I watch a lot. I do love to meet new people. I love to hear people's story, their idea. I love it when someone says, my last business failed, but here's what I'm doing next. For me, those are the most interesting opportunities. I'm also really excited to be with young and younger people. Sometimes I work at companies, advise companies, where the employees are literally younger than my children who are on their mid-20s. And so I am really engaged in people from other countries who are coming from different backgrounds. I loved going to Mexico City. I love working with entrepreneurs from cultures where historically they were really afraid to fail. But now there's incubators and entrepreneurs and capital helping these young entrepreneurs do what they've always dreamed of. I think what's happening in Singapore and Shanghai and Hong Kong is truly fascinating. And the emerging scene in Melbourne, Australia, and Sydney is also very electric. I'll be back there 2 or 3 more times in 2018 as I was in 17.
Give us a few key observations. You mentioned that you're enjoying what they're doing there. Can you? And you might have touched on it earlier, but if you could just give us 1 or 2 clear examples, that would be great from a practical perspective.
Absolutely. So there was an entrepreneur in Mexico City that I met, and he was having trouble sending money to somebody in another country. So the company's called Friendly Transfer. And he worked out a way that, for example, I'm going to Patagonia in a couple weeks. I could send money down there 6 months ago. It could be lent around and borrowed and lent around over and over and over down there. The people down there don't have to get money from North America and pay the transfer fee and pay the interest. And then when I get to Patagonia, my money's down there and has grown. And so this concept of this guy in Mexico City helping people in Peru and Colombia and Chile with money transfer transferring it in a friendlier way, kind of like Airbnb, sharing your apartment around the world. You can now share your money around the world. But this entrepreneur learned this from his own problem in getting money to other countries where you had exchange fees and costs to move the money. And this is, I think, one of the brand new ways to solve the exchange rates and the problems in getting money around the world. I think it fits right into the whole cryptocurrency and eliminating all the friction of transferring money, holding money, and using a physical capital.
One of the things that I love are books, and the entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast also love books. I know that you happen to have mentioned earlier an excellent book, Good to Great. If you could recommend one other book, because I have actually a book club at mitchellchadro.com/books, and what I do is I link up to the book that our guest actually references so that the audience member can sort of go and not only purchase it, but get some additional ideas that they can gain from that. Can you recommend another?
I sure can. In fact, Bloomberg called me last month and asked me the same question, and I answered the question, and my book recommendation made their top books of 2017, and I'm happy to do the
that's
same
awesome
for your readers. So the book is called Supernormal. It was actually highlighted in the Wall Street Journal 2 months ago. It is a fascinating book written by a woman, and I apologize, I don't remember her name. She is great, and she's really articulated back to this concept of resilience, which is really part of AQ. And she talked about the importance of resilience and the lessons of resilience and the way to find resilience when you need it most and pass on the concept. And I think that Supernormal book is a must-read for all entrepreneurs because, as you know, you can have a great day and a terrible day all in the same day as an entrepreneur, and you need resilience. And this book nails it.
Yeah, no, that's great, Ron, and I certainly will link up and do that at the show notes as well. The reason why I chose books to sponsor my Fast Pitch Round, that's easy. I love books, and books is owned by a powerful company that stands behind all their products, was willing to offer an exclusive free 30-day trial to my podcast listeners with one free audiobook download. If any listener doesn't like their books, exchange it, and you can cancel at any time. Keep your free download, and you can choose from over 180,000 bestsellers, new releases, classics, and more. I recommend The Last Lecture by Randy Posh. So dream big, get inspired, and listen up. Go on over to mitchellchadro.com/books. Again, head on over to mitchellchadro.com/books. It's your number one resource for books. As I was reading more about you in the industry, it said here that you are actually called the godfather of Fintech, and yet you seem to be such a humble person for so much that you've achieved. So how does that moniker actually make you feel?
Old.
At 53, Ron.
Well, I think labels are for soup cans, not for people. I appreciate the
I love it.
Mayor of Fintech and Godfather of Fintech jokes that people make. They play the Godfather music when I go on stage usually. I'm really just very self-aware. I meditated this morning, and I'm really just trying to share and be a good part of this ecosystem globally in Fintech.
You talk about meditation. For me, because I'm all about balance, as you know. So it's about, how do you talked about, the stool with 3 legs, and the way that I envision that with just everything is business, family, and life. And if you only focus on one to neglect 1 or 2 of the others, then what do you really have? How do you have a son, you have a daughter, you've been married for 26 plus years. How do you balance it all, really? I mean, now you're traveling, you're invested in all these companies. How do you do it?
So for me, every day, and I mean every single day, I try to set my intention for that day. Who am I as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a professional, as a coach, as a speaker? Because all day long, there are people bumping into me in the grocery store, cutting in front of me on the street, and trying to move me off my intention. All this news we're seeing, fake or real, and all the misbehavior by people around the world knocks people off their intention for the day. And so Wayne Dyer has been one of my gurus about the power of the power of intention and your daily intention. And I really try to do that. And yeah, I get knocked off once in a while during the day, but I find if I get up, have coffee with my wife, watch the sunrise, meditate, set my intention, and then go try to stay and execute on that intention, and then reset it the next day, it really helps me be the best I can be in Rewirement.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's well said. You're obviously well spoken. It's funny because we had a guest on who created this Ori app that talks all about taking out the ums and you knows when people say like or what have you. You can tell that you speak obviously very well. In closing here, can you tell us 3 main takeaways for the audience that you'd like to leave us with?
I think the audience needs to recognize how hard this is. Some people make it look easy, like a duck calm on the top and the feet going crazy under the water. But this is really difficult, and they should be good to themselves and try to be honest with themselves and others. I think the other second piece would be focus and execution. Stay focused and keep executing. In good times, I see people lose their focus, and in bad times. And the last one is just try to have a little more fun. I see entrepreneurs so stressed out and working so hard is just to take a break and be grateful, especially at this year end and this holiday season. Be healthy, call someone, tell them how helpful they've been, and get ready for the marathon and 2018 ahead.
I'll tell you what, Ron, there have been so many value bombs in this show today, so much wisdom, and you've provided so much time and insight to our audience. We truly want to thank you so very much. You know, earlier in our conversation, we had talked about graphic designers, and you had mentioned
batteries included.
Graphic designer sponsors the wrap-up round. I needed help with my graphics for all my social media. So if you head on over to mitchellchadro.com/graphic designer, is there someone else that you can recommend in terms of a graphic designer for the audience?
Batteries included.
How are you going to stay in contact with Ron Suber? You can get the show notes at mitchellchadro.com/show 055. People are going to want to obviously stay in contact with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Twitter. I'm on WeChat and WhatsApp. All those are wide open, and I look forward to engaging again with you and, of course, your audience.
Well, real soon, Ron. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. You sound like a terrific guy and someone that we're certainly going to keep in contact with, and we hope to be in touch real soon. You take care.
My pleasure. Happy holiday. Happy holiday.
Oh, same to you and your family. Take care now, Ron. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Until next time. Subscribe to my email list at mitchellchadro.com/signup. You will get all the full interview transcripts, my ebook, 30 Tools to Start Up, where I talk about these free resources in show 006. You'll get the startup checklist, education and training materials, and other resources just by signing up at mitchellchadro.com/signup. Back at mitchellchadro.com/signup, help me boost the rankings of the Listen Up Show, the Startup Entrepreneur Podcast, by providing a well-written review in iTunes. mitchellchadro.com/iTunes. It helps other people find the show. If you actually need instructions on how to do this, you can find that back at mitchellchadro.com/signup. Thank you so much for subscribing to my email list and providing a written review on iTunes.